Thank you so much to you and Mara for having me in your beautiful space today.
It's our pleasure.
So today we're going to talk about Ashtanga Yoga, and I know that it is a practice that is close to your heart.
It is.
You've been doing it for something like over 20 years now. And you have a really interesting story yourself, I think, with Ashtanga Yoga, your relationship with Ashtanga Yoga.
Yes.
Both of your parents are Ashtanga yogis.
Yes, that's right.
Can you tell me what it was like growing up in a household full of yogis?
Absolutely. So I hated yoga. I did not like yoga. It was this weird thing that my already weird parents did that made me even more weird and made our family even weirder. So I completely rejected it, did not have any interest in it, went in the complete opposite direction and got into bodybuilding. I thought, that'll show them. And so it wasn't until, gosh, my early 20s that on a trip back to visit my parents, I couldn't get to the gym. And they said, just come and do a class. You know, after 12 years of bugging me about it, I finally said, okay. And I couldn't believe what everybody was doing. I didn't actually understand. I thought I knew what they were doing. I didn't actually understand what the practice was about. And it was so frustrating that I was so big and could do so much bench press or so much squatting or whatever, and I couldn't fold myself in half. I couldn't lower myself to the ground comfortably. And I was a sweaty mess. And after 20 minutes, they said, that's enough, you rest. And so I just did, I just did the same thing every day for 2 weeks. And then they said, if you want to keep going, you need to have another teacher. So when they sent me back to the States, they introduced me to a friend of theirs, and I did some self-practice and a combination of that and working with someone else. And that's how I fell in love with it. It was a combination of excitement, frustration, and just sheer determination that I was not going to let this thing beat me.
Absolutely. I guess particularly if your parents are doing it. What, my parents can do this and I can't even do this?
Yes. These parents half my size and twice my age who can stand on their heads for an indefinite period of time, and I can't touch my toes. I couldn't reach past my knees.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely understand that. So you went back to the US. When did you start traveling to Mysore?
Gosh, I had only been practicing for probably between 1 and 2 years, and had not even considered going to Mysore, and my parents happened to be making one of their annual pilgrimages, and they said, come. I said, I'm not ready for that. They said, just come. And I was absolutely terrible and loved it. It was fantastic. It was such a welcoming, inviting family type experience. Obviously I had my family there, but everybody was so inviting. The teachers were so kind. The patience that other people had. I didn't feel a sense of judgment. I didn't feel a sense of comparison. People would go for breakfast afterwards and sit and talk about it. And just, what are you working on? Oh, I've tried this. What have you tried? It was very collegiate. It was very helpful and useful. And so I felt very comfortable and relaxed. And I didn't feel that sense of competition that I'd felt anytime I stepped into a gym where it was like, who can lift the most weight? It was very ego-driven, whereas this felt very ego-less.
Yeah, absolutely. So if somebody came to an Ashtanga Yoga Shala, for example, what would a regular class look like?
Okay, the most traditional class is the Mysore style classes, and those are done early in the mornings. Here we do them at 6. If you go to India, depending on where you go, they might have them at different times, but the earliest time in the season that we would usually do is about 4:30 in the morning. A lot of the time you're doing it that way for 2 reasons. One, because you're doing the salutes to the sun, so while the sun's coming up, you're kind of welcoming in the day, but also it can get really hot over there, so it's the coolest time to do your practicing. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then, so particular trainings or the way that you guys train is quite different. You do kind of annual trips, is that true to Mysore?
It depends on the person, it depends on their availability. As I was saying, there's a traditional style, which is the Mysore style, and the way that looks different to the lead classes that people kind of know, I think in the West, as being, I'm going to a yoga class, teachers at the front, I'm instructing, everyone's moving together, often the teacher is moving. The teacher doesn't move in a Mysore class. And so partly what you're learning when you're learning to do the Mysore teaching is how to adjust. It's a huge part of the practice. It's the physical, a little bit of verbal as well, but often very physical adjustments. So helping people find the depth of a posture, helping them find a lift, helping them find the balance when that's too difficult for them. Then topping and tailing that, you've got the lead aspects of it. So you've got to know the count, you've got to know the drishti, the looking points, you've got to know the breath. It's almost a script that you're learning to be able to call. And then you can have fun with it within the script, but it stays pretty much the same. It's a very exact system.
And there are particular sequences that you learn. So you learn one sequence first, and then the next sequence,
Correct.
and the next. Can
Yes.
you tell me about that?
Yes, so in total we have 6 series. It wasn't always that way. They've been sort of deconstructed and reconstructed over the years. It's pretty much crystallized now with the passing of Pattabhi Jois back in 2009 when his grandson Sharat took over. He very much kept things as they had reached that final form. If he had lived longer, no doubt he would have evolved it even further, but his grandson, in homage to him, wanted to keep it as it is, and that's become a much more distinct system now. But effectively now 6 practices. You've got the primary series, that's where we start. You move into intermediate, and then you've got advanced A through D. The primary series, we have a phrase, we don't use it a lot, but primary lifers. And that's someone who's probably never going to do more than primary because it's already so difficult. Primary is for everyone. They say teachers do intermediate, and third and beyond is for demonstration. Usually that's how it breaks down because they're just so challenging. We're talking about very complex and strength, balance, coordinated movements that are just, if you tried to give somebody that in the first class, they'd say, I'm sorry, thanks, this is not for me. But if you can give them some basic movements, become quite functional for them, help them to be able to get up out of a chair and sit down on the floor a little more comfortably, sit the way we're sitting now without the aches and the pains and the scratching and the itching and then that relief from that discomfort is great. You know, the first series is about ridding the body of the tensions and the weaknesses and the things that create difficulty for people in their everyday lives.
How many Ashtanga yogis do we have in Adelaide who are authorized?
Yes, so we have 4. We have myself. It's always fun to say this because it's, who do we have? We have 4 people. It's very exciting. We have myself, my wife, my mother, and my father. So we have 4, but it's all within this one family. So as far as you ask about lineage, it's continued through us, at least here in Adelaide in South Australia.
So if somebody wanted to come here to your Ashtanga Yoga Shala
Yes.
For the first time, what should they do to prepare themselves to walk in the door?
Great. So there's 2 ways that they can start. If they are wanting to do the most traditional method, the Mysore method, all they need to do is come and be ready to work. That's it. They need to bring their mat with them. They need to show up before 6:30. We open the doors at 6. So it's a 6:30 hard start, and we lock the doors after that, and we get going. And what they'll find, is that there'll be lots and lots of people around the room who know what they're doing because they've been coming for a while, and they'll stand at the front of their mat possibly freaking out, thinking, what am I supposed to do? And that's when I'll then go over to them and start working with them one-on-one within the group environment. Some people think that if they come to the lead classes, it will give them a little bit of a boost so they'll at least understand what we're doing. And no doubt they'll understand at least what the sequence looks like. But it's a bit like singing along with a song on the radio. You think you know the words until you turn the radio off, and then yeah, exactly. It's me too, because I haven't really learned the words. As long as you've got that cue there, it feels like you know it. So it's a very different way of practice, and people, I think, like the autonomy of knowing that they know the practice. If they're traveling, if they can't make it in, they can still do the practice. They've got themselves, they've got their mat, they know the practice. It becomes theirs.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
This has been a beautiful conversation.
Thank you for having me in.
Yeah, well, I'm in.
Thank me for having you in.
Yeah, perfect. And I'm really excited to chat with you and Mara next.
Yes, absolutely. Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.